Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel Digits ICT Solutions, and today we're going to do what was promised in the last video and as some of you have requested, and that is a step-by-step guide to building a retro games console out of an old Xbox using a Raspberry Pi 3. As you can see, there's going to be quite a lot of stuff to go in, and I'll post links in the description of some of the things you might need. Now, you don't have to do it exactly the same if you don't want to. If we have a quick look at this, you can see this is how it is at the moment. It's all original, and we're going to put a Raspberry Pi 3 in here. We're going to keep the original controller ports, but if your soldering skills aren't very good, I know mine aren't brilliant, then you can always take these out and just put normal USBs in. I like to keep the original controller ports just to keep it a bit more authentic, and then obviously use adapters for various other things when needed. Also, we'll put a micro SD slot and HDMI adapter here, and we'll obviously keep the Ethernet socket. And we're also going to retain the original power socket. So step one is going to be to obviously disassemble the console. Now, I may get my words muddled up sometimes here, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm not very good at this, but I'm doing my best. And I hope you enjoy this video. I might not get it all done in one go, so it might be done over 2 or 3 videos, but we'll see how we get on. So let's get to opening the console up, and yeah. Because I wanted to use Crystal Xbox really, but they were more expensive. I got this one off eBay with 2 controllers. I won on a bid for £20, which I didn't think was too bad. Right, first things first, to get into this, there's screws under the feet, and then there's a screw here, and there's a screw there. So you'll need a Torx screwdriver for this, so you can use something like this, you know, a multi-set of bits to get in there. You can hear my cat charging around, I do apologise. Now let's just find the right bit. It's quite a big one. Nope, that one's too big. There we go, that's the right one. That's one screw out. What you want to try and do is not take the whole foot off, so you don't lose all of the glue. Now, you also don't have to retain the original power socket if you don't want to. I like to, again, just for authenticity reasons. You can always just, you know, it's soldered to the power supply, so you've got to unsolder it anyways. But you can always just run a micro USB lead from outside into the console if you want, or use a male to female USB cable and put a socket on the back. I think I did have a look on the internet. You can get an adapter that will convert, because we're using an Xbox 360 power supply, will convert the kettle lead into a figure of 8, which you can then just shove through the back and glue in or whatever. So I mean, you don't have to do it exactly the same as me. You can make it your own and do what you want to. I hope the quality is alright. I'm using the front-facing camera on my Galaxy S8 Plus, so this will be a good test to see how good a quality it is. Hopefully the light isn't too bad either, because it's miserable out there today and it's pretty dark. There we go. Oh. Where did I say that screw was? There. Warranty void if removed. Well, I think this is years out of warranty. It was a very capable console back in its time. I remember playing Halo 2 on one of these. That was an immensely good game. Right, that should hopefully be all of the screws. I don't think there's... Nope. So next, I need to turn it over. There we go. For a minute there, I thought I hadn't taken all the screws out. Embarrassing. Right, oh, we got a Western Digital drive in this one. A bit more reliable than the old Seagate drives. So what we need to do is take the optical drive out and the hard drive out. So to do that, just undo the old IDE cable. Then we need to undo the Molex power cable. In fact, this Molex cable is going to be, I think, the Molex cable we're going to use off the power supply, because it's nice and long. Right, let's have a look. So now we've got a Torx screw here and a Torx screw down in there. I think that's it. I should remember really. I've taken enough of these apart in the past. Yep, we've got one down there. So I need to see what size, because it's bigger than the other. So we need to use a smaller bit. Let's have a guess and see if that's the right size. Nope, need the one down. Now I guess if you want to keep the DVD drive, you can, but you wouldn't be able to use this DVD drive. But you could just use a standard PC Serial 80A CD drive and then use a USB to SATA adapter if you wanted to. But I'm not going to bother because I don't see the point. But I mean, you guys might want to have an optical drive in here. A bit. See if we can. Doesn't look like this one had undone. I would also like to apologise, sorry it's been so long since my last video, but I've been very busy. In the IT world it can be very busy, especially with the recent outbreak of WannaCrypt. I've been busy making sure none of my clients have been hit, and thankfully they have not, especially the big businesses I look after, so that is good. But if anyone has been hit by it, I feel very sorry for them. Right, that's the hard drive out. Now the optical drive. Because as you know, Microsoft being Microsoft, everything is proprietary. So that's why I said you couldn't use the old drive, because of this proprietary connector. Unless you know the pinouts for it. But it doesn't sound very good. Oh, there's something in it. Oh no. Oh. It wasn't described as faulty on eBay, but it doesn't sound very good, does it? Right, now for the important bit and safety bit. Very important. If you've had this recently plugged in, I would advise leaving it unplugged for 24 hours to allow the capacitor to discharge, because if you don't and you touch that, you'll get one hell of a belt. On the other hand, if you take the power, if you can't wait that long, and I do it as a precaution anyways, is to take the power supply out, turn it over very carefully without touching the contacts, and then short that out, and then that will discharge it. Because this one is 400 volts, and I seem to remember actually modifying one of these as a late teen and been enthusiastic and got myself a nasty belt. But you live and learn. We're going to also keep the original fan, although you don't have to if you don't want to. You can put, change the fan if you want. I mean, if you're going to put everything on a Molex connection like I'm going to, you can use Y splitters, and you can just use an ordinary desktop fan in there. You might have to adjust the mounts for it to fit in. Other than that, yeah, it should be all right. So now, I like to do away with all the heat shield and everything else as well. So first, we now need to take out the controller ports. I have tried in my last build using this power supply, and it's not it may look like a standard PC80X power supply, but I can assure you it is not. I did manage to get it jump started, but it wasn't giving very good voltages and it's quite unstable, so there's obviously some stuff going on there that are, well, I mean, you guys might be able to get it to do it, but it's definitely not a standard ATX power supply, so we will not be using it. We will obviously use the jack off the end, and we're also going to do away with this heat shield because there's no need for it, so it can shave some weight off the console. When it comes to soldering and that, I will zoom in a bit for you. But I'm using the front facing camera, so I'll just have to lower the tripod. And there you go. That's what the controller port looks like. And what you can do if you don't feel comfortable breaking into this and unsoldering the wires, you can just chop the plug off, and then you can obviously use crimps or connector blocks to attach your cables on. You've got your standard USB colours, red, white, green, black. The yellow wire is not used. So that's that. Also a little tip, when soldering, I find to screw, obviously all this front will be off, but to screw this back in this way round, and then you don't have to try and hold it while you're soldering, so that's quite good. That's one controller port out. I think we'll have a swig of coffee. Lovely. Come on, out you come. There we go. I would just be careful of this because it is quite sharp. Reminds me a bit like the old beige PC cases, which you slice your fingers on and not even realise it until there's like carnage inside the case. Then we've got to undo this proprietary connector to the front panel. Now, you can keep the front panel, but they are momentary switches. I'm using a latching switch for this project. But you can get controllers and stuff that use momentary switches to power on and power down the Pi using a Python script. However, I wanted to keep the cost down of this build, so I haven't incorporated that. But you know, you can do that if you want to, and keep the front connector, or the front panel, should I say? Right, let's have a look. So I've just got to remember how this front piece comes off. I think it's not like that. Right, okay. Actually, if I remember rightly. There we go. One side half undone, I think. Plastic's quite brittle on this one. It was a lot stronger on the well, it seemed to be on the clearer one. And there you go, that's your eject switch, power on switch, and your LEDs. So you could potentially, if you wanted to, keep these LEDs and wire them into a board so that when you push that it senses and shuts the Pi down. Then obviously you've got the eject switch, which I guess you could rewire as a reset switch, or you could wire it straight into the switch of a DVD drive. So yeah, possibilities are endless. Right, next, we'll take out the motherboard. Move that bit on there for you. And some people will say, oh, why don't you just mod this? You know, because it's a capable console, you know, you can mod it with an executor chip or soft mod it with MechAssault. I've done all that sort of stuff back in the day. But, you know, I think this is a far more fun project to do. Especially if, like me, you like tinkering, modifying things. In my last video, you will have noticed, obviously, when I was going through the emulators and everything else, that I had some problems with the video cinematics on Tomb Raider, and it froze, and I said it hadn't frozen, and it froze as soon as I said it, and that blew me typical. Well, it turns out that my SD card, and I didn't realise it, it's my bad for buying cheap rubbish off Amazon, was only a class 4. I upgraded it to a class 10 SanDisk 64, and the problem went away. I also upgraded it to a Raspberry Pi 3 and overclocked it to 1.4 gigahertz. And yeah, it runs absolutely beautifully now. So we'll be doing the same with this. Once we've done this, the next video will be obviously installing and configuring Retropie, showing you the different ways you can load ROMs onto this, because there's 3 ways you can load ROMs onto this. Either taking the SD card out, putting it into your computer and copying the files, or you can put a USB stick into the console. Obviously the way I'm doing it, you'd need an adapter. Let the files copy on, take it out, put it in the computer, and then you copy your ROMs into the relevant folder, put it back into the console, and it will go through the motions and copy the files off the stick to the SD card. Or the way I quite like to do it is to do it over LAN. So I can leave the console sat on in the corner of the room and I have my laptop copying the files over remotely to it. Now what would be cool, I haven't looked into this yet, is, you know, if a few people, you know, on the same sort of emulators playing sort of Mario Kart 64 online, if you could somehow emulate the local player, you know, but obviously not local, that'd be quite fun. Though I do advise, do not play Mario Kart when drinking lots of whiskey, as a friend and I did, and got to Bowser's Castle, and I think that's the last level I remember. It was made you want to blooming hallucinate, and I think after about 30 times of trying to complete the level while drunk, we just gave up. So yeah, although fun, don't play drunk. I also tried Mario Kart in 4 players as well, because I said I only tried it in 2 players, and it played absolutely perfect. There was no sound juddering or anything, which is really good. So yeah, it's all good fun. Now we're going to move the power supply, and I'll show you where you need to short out on there. So we need to undo the screws. hold it to the sides if it's been on recently, so you don't get a shock. So this is the capacitor we want to discharge. So you look underneath and it's these two great big contacts here. I'm going to use an insulated screwdriver. Don't do it with an uninsulated one because you could give yourself a shock. And you might get a spark, but no, this one's discharged, so we don't have to worry about that. And when we come to unsoldering the power connector, we unsolder that one, and that one, that one, and that one. These two here just hold it in place, and these two are the actual contacts. We'll put that out of the way for now. Try and get the fan out, which, if I remember rightly, can be a bit tricky. Oh, no, maybe not. I said tricky and it was easy. If I'd said it was easy, it would have been tricky. Oh. This is pretty clean as well. Well, when I did my other Xbox, the crystal one, it was absolutely caked. Right, now I'm going to do away with this heat shield. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you know, I don't see the need in it, don't need it. So it can come out. If I remember how you get it out, there's all sort of these sort of lugs that sort of hold it down. So you just need to bend those up, and then hopefully it should come out. Right. I mean, this is more than just a heat shield. I mean, it's an EMI shield as well. Right, there's a... Damn. Right, let's see if we can get this out. Ah, yes, it's also there's lots of broken plastic floating around here. I wonder if it's been dropped. Right, that's pretty much out. Excellent, we are now left with a clean shell. I say clean shell. Right, I'm going to pause this video while I just give it a good hoover, and then we'll be back shortly. Right, that's all hoovered out. Now, you want to obviously decide where you're going to put things. This is an Xbox 360 Slim power supply. and it says here that we've got 12 volts out at 10.83 amps. So it's obviously a slightly different one from the last one I had, which was 16 amps. And then we've got a 5 volt, 1 amp standby supply. Now that 5 volts isn't going to be enough to drive your Pi, as in my last video you'll notice I had an extra micro USB connector because I had to add the DC to DC converter. On this, it will boot on the 5 volt 1 amp, but it's when you start playing games and that, you start getting the lightning bolt come up in the corner and it starts to freeze and misbehave. So I do advise using a 12 volt supply and then using a DC to DC converter to give you a stable 5 volts at 3 amps. Obviously the Pi is rated at 2.5 amps, but you're not going to draw over that anyways. So yes, and what I'm going to do is take the IEC port out and then obviously solder the cable straight onto the back of the figure of 8. So yeah, let's do this then. But first I think we're going to unsolder the figure of 8 off the old power supply, ready to put onto the new one. I'm just going to pause the video again while I plug in my desoldering pump, and we'll go from there. Right, we're back. I've brought the tripod down so you can get a much closer look at removing this. First thing to do is to reflow these joints, just so it makes it slightly easier to unsolder, because obviously it's very old solder. So we're going to reflow that. I always use leaded solder with the built-in flux. So let's reflow this solder. I'm using a Power Plus SMD rework station. So my soldering skills. Key is to get the joint nice and hot. Now I have got the pump up and running. I haven't used this pump for a long time actually. So it doesn't look like it's working too well, but in fact if we just try and oh, we've got a big blob out there. This hasn't made much difference so far, but obviously try not to eject the solder over yourself. Right, that hasn't actually worked well at all. So we're going to have to go and we'll try this method now. Get it nice and hot. Let's see if we can so you try not to damage it in the process. And there you are. It's come out, not damaged in any way, so that's quite handy. I think I'm also going to keep this because it's nice and long. And there we are. So that is going to be fixed in there like that. Put a bit of flex on there and then go in and do the and then obviously solder that into the power supply. But first we need to get the IEC port out of the old power supply. Now we've got screws under here, 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 here. But once you take the feet off, I think, depending, I don't think this is a genuine original. So it might be a bit different because the genuine original, you had a little cup underneath each feet, which you had to get out. And then the screw was underneath there. Yeah, this isn't a genuine one. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like inside. This is just one I won on eBay for £6. So I think the genuine ones are about, well, I think they're about £20 to £40. So we'll just check it over to make sure it's not going to be a bad one, because the last thing we want is to put a bad one in and then have to replace it down the line. Hence why if you actually go the adapter route that I suggested, the IEC to the male figure of 8, then it can make replacing the power supply a lot easier. Just get this so you can see it. So just a bog standard Phillips, because the genuine one uses Torx screws. Interesting. It's definitely not an official one, that's for certain. So it'll be interesting to see what the spacing and stuff is like from the primary to the secondary. But again, I did plug this in to test it before doing this video, so I think shorting it out is going to be a very good idea. If I can get in there. Right, let's just unplug. Yeah, it's definitely not original. I mean, you just tell by the fan arrangement. The other one's sort of got more of an exhaust. But we're not going to be driving too much through this anyway, so it should hopefully be okay. But let's just have a look at the underside of this. What the hell's that? Look. I mean, there's good contact separation. So, I don't know if you can see that. Huh. It's like a bit of stringy plastic. Interesting. So it looks like this is our live and this is our neutral. Yeah, very interesting. Well, let's get to work on soldering this. At least it's got good contact separation, so that's not too bad. So I know a bit about electronics, but I'm not as electronically knowledgeable as the likes of Big Clive and Photo Introduction. But yes, let's see if we can remove this. Let's again try this Well, actually, no, before we do that, we need to re-solder. Right. Ah, that one doesn't look like it's... Right, okay, so that hasn't worked again as well as I'd hoped. Let's see. One out, two out. Make sure I've got some holes in there. Push the wires through. It's the old port. What I am going to use is the flex that came with it. It should be somewhere here. Now this one will do, the one that we got from the other Xbox, well, the Xbox that we've just taken apart. So just need a piece of flex. Just strip that back. Now we strip those, I'll just twist them together. Now it ain't going to matter which side you put these in, because obviously we're using the figure of 8, so it's reversible. And it's AC, so is it going to fit through there? Doesn't look like it. Well, it should. Let's see if we can make those holes a bit bigger. It's certainly getting there. Make sure they're twisted nice and tight. Right, that's in now. That's one in anyway, so let's get that soldered up so it don't fall out. That's in nicely. Sorry if you can't see all of this. It's a bit fiddly. It's in nicely as well. So if we just and there we go, that's soldered in. Obviously I'll cut the tails off. Just give everything a sharp tug just to make sure nothing's going to come out. But yeah, it's not bad at all. I'm sure it could be better, and I'm sure you guys can probably do better. Gonna just hide excellent. Not bad. So that's interesting. See, on the genuine one we have the blue wire is the control line, but on this one it's green. White is 5 volts, red is 12 volts. Interesting. So it's a bit of a weird way of doing things. I don't know if you can see this, but right. So just as well we open that up before checking, and I'd advise you to do the same, because otherwise I would have thought red was 5 volts. But no, red is 12 volts, green is control line, white is 5 volts, and black is ground. Very strange. But never mind. I'll just put this back together. I think we might hot glue that down for a bit of strain relief. So get the old trusty glue gun. And get that plugged in. So I'll just pause again. Right. Glue that down just for a bit of strain relief. Should help if I had some glue in there, wouldn't it? Put a generous amount of glue in there. Need to obviously wait for that to dry, shouldn't take too long. It's pretty quick, this stuff. Yep, that should do the trick. Plug that back in. In fact, I'm just going to write down these colours so I don't forget, and I shouldn't, but you never know, it's always best to do that. So I'm just going to pause the video while I write these colours down. Right, I've written those colours down. Just make sure everything's plugged back in. Make sure it's not going to... Why won't that go back on? Ah, yes, that's why. That's better. Screw it back together. I'm not going to bother putting the feet back on this. Excellent. And there we are. The power supply is now built. Next, we now need to obviously sit it in the case to see how much we need to cut off the flex, to then solder on to that. Although actually we'll probably do it this way so you see it a bit better. Adjust that slightly. What we've also got to make sure is that there's enough room to get the controller ports in. Just to see. Yeah, that's going to be fine. So we don't need a lot of flex at all. We only need a very short amount. Let's look at it again this way just to see. So that's going to sit. Let's double check. Always best to double check rather than screw it up. So that needs to sit like that so we can still get the controller ports in. Which we can, that'll sit down there nicely like that. Excellent. So now it's obviously not cut through the cable because that would mean we'd have to start again. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Who hasn't, right? So now we are left with a short bit of flex and the ends. So let's strip these off. So they're not quite 1.5 mm then. press them together. And then we're going to tin these. Let's turn the old soldering iron back on. That's warming up. Let's just have a bit of a clear up. Let's get that ready. Tell you what we can do while the soldering iron's warming up. And again, it doesn't matter which colours you put where, but let's have a bit of fun while we wait for the soldering iron to warm up. So that's, although I have just realised I've cut through the flex I've used is the one that came for the Xbox, but it's right, I've got loads of these figure of 8s, so it's not a problem. That's even marked neutral anyways. But again, as I said, it doesn't matter because it's a figure of 8, it's AC, so it can go any direction. Just confirm with the multimeter. Right, so yeah, I had it in the other way around, but again, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's fine. Right, soldering iron should be up to temperature now. In fact, I'm going to cut these legs off. As not required. So if we tin these ends, oh dear, solder on the table. Some of you are probably thinking I'm making a complete hash of my soldering. I know I'm not the best. Those ends are tinned. can get it nice and hot. That one's soldered up a lot better than this one. I'm not happy with this one. Ouch, yeah, it's hot. Excellent. Now to solder this on. Or to try and solder it on, should we say. I wonder if perhaps not. Phone's got a better idea. Stop it moving around, hopefully. This will work. This definitely isn't looking very good at the moment, is it? So hopefully I'll make a better job of this bit than I have. Got it. Yeah, that one's alright, but still not quite happy with this one. Right. Excellent, that's on. Let's just do a quick continuity check just to make sure nothing is melted. Yeah, that pin has moved in here down slightly. Just make sure I've got a good connection on the solder. Yeah, that one's good. That one's good as well. In fact, I think we'll leave that plugged in just for a second. Right. Now to put some hot glue on this. Again for a bit of strain relief. Not like it's going anywhere when it's in the case, but turn the old hot glue gun on. Shouldn't take too long to come on. So I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I haven't bored you to tears. Just wait for that gun to get hot. Let's see if that's warm enough now. then we'll get to cool down for a second. I'm putting some more glue on it anyways when it's... How's that looking? Excellent. Let's look at getting it in the case. It's a nice fit anyways. That wants to, don't know if you can see that, just to go in there like that. So obviously we're going to need to glue that in. And it should be the glue stick I'd cut. And it's miraculously disappeared. Marvellous. Oh well, rather than looking, we'll just cut a new piece. And put that there and we know where it is then. Right, that's in. We need to just make sure it's glued to the that's going to look very amateurish and very... Let's just see how that's... Yeah, it seems to be in there okay. Just see... Yeah, that's hot, that's hot. Ah, good old hot glue. Right, we're going to leave that just for a bit to dry. So I'm going to pause this video for now and we'll be back shortly. Right, the glue's all dried. Let's just give it a test and make sure it's not going to fall out. Feels sturdy. Yeah, it goes in well. Try it a few times. Yep, that's okay. Now what we want to do is obviously fix this in. So get it into position. Obviously we need to make sure the controller port sits in there and the lid of the console will still go on. If we just tuck that in there. And just see if I've got that in position okay. Let's see if the old right, so that's that in. Obviously I haven't glued it in place yet, but let's just see. Yep, that looks okay. Yep, so that's where it needs to go. So if we stand that up, hopefully that will hold. You need quite a lot of glue for this part. We'll put some on the underside of the power supply as well. So that's going to go in there. So if we just get the glue all over.
This isn't. Right. Let's get this. And I wonder it's gone all funny. Glue gun, that obviously knocked the switch off, that was clever. So let that warm up again, sorry about that. Actually, let's get rid of some of this stringy stuff. Quite a bit of glue for this. Go mad with hot glue. Right. Get some in there. And some in there. Excellent. Better just make sure the fan will still go in. And the answer is yes, it does. Well, I might as well leave that in there. Let's take all the stringy stuff out the fan. Let's see. Yep, that's in there. And there we are, that's that bit done. Excellent. Now obviously you need to decide where you're going to put everything. So I've got my Raspberry Pi 3 case and heat sinks. So I need to decide where we're going to stand everything. In my last one I had it about here. So I think we'll put it there again. Seems like a good place to put it. Just take these heads off so it can sit fairly flat. So let's see. So I think we will put it about there. Yeah, there looks like a good spot. Right, so next stage is to put the Raspberry Pi in here, and I need to build the case. So I'll pause the video while I do that, because obviously every case is different. But this case also has a fan. I'd advise having a fan with the heat sinks to keep it cool. And the back fan will help draw out a lot of hot air as well. Or having said that, after playing with my other one that I've built, and it's been on for hours, still blowing cold air out, not getting remotely warm, so that's quite good. So I hold out high hopes for this one as well. So yes, I'll be back shortly. Right, that's all built. It's quite a nice little case. Now what we want to do, so we're going to position that there, but we don't want to glue it in just yet. We want to get the HDMI, micro SD and Ethernet ports in. So we'll do that. So this is the HDMI extender. And what we'll need to do is file some of the back out so we can get the, if we take that out of the equation for now. So we want that to go about there, then the micro SD go the other side. See, actually that's quite a snug fit there. So that's quite good. Let's see. Now we want the micro SD. Oh, and I've been sent the wrong one. They've sent me a micro SD to SD. Well, just as well, I think I have somewhere in my... here we go. I do have the extension. This is a bit different. I was hoping for one that was enclosed in a case. So I don't know quite how we'll fix it, but we'll have a look. Yeah, so need to file out. So that's where it's going to go. So what we want to do, and if we can look and see how that's going to look, because obviously you need to be able to get the card in and out okay. Actually, I'm wondering if we get the HDMI in, whether we just put it on top on there. Going to come to like that. Takes off the bottom. that's going to look. So it's going to sit like that. Let's just see, brand new micro SD. So that's the height that needs to be. So I think if we glue that there, should be alright. So if we get that glued in, just where I want it. Right. Right, how's that looking? So it's not secured properly yet. I think we need some more glue. Let's just let that dry a bit. In fact, I think I'll pause this video while I just get this in, otherwise we could be here a while. Right, we're back. The glue's dry now, so let's have a look at the finished product. Yes, it's a bit messier now, it's not perfect. And there's our SD card slot and our HDMI. Let's just give the HDMI a try, just to make sure that it ain't going anywhere. Yeah, HDMI sits in there nicely. So that's that bit done. Now next, you want to get the Ethernet socket in and then onto the controller ports. So let's find the Ethernet socket, the Ethernet extender. Now it does come quite long. If you've got the crimp tools like I have, you can shorten it. Because in the last build I cut this to length and then put a new RJ45 end on. So rather, we need to see how it's going to sit. So that's how we want it, like that. So what I think we'll do, is get it so we've got the height right. And then we will try and get it in as straight as possible. So that's how it should look when it's done. So it should be easy to unplug and plug in again. So I'll try and do this so you can see. Got to be easier if I had my own camera, man. So it's going to go in there like so. Glue gun's not quite hot enough yet, so I'll kill the time. Some of that stringy stuff out the way. I just hope the video comes out okay. We stand that on there. Make sure that you can plug it in okay. That. just to hold it in. Looks okay. I wonder what Microsoft would think to me doing this. They'll be thinking, no, you're wrecking my console. Right, that looks very messy. It's a black Xbox, you can't see inside it, so it doesn't really matter too much, but so that's in now. So we now have our Ethernet, our micro SD and our HDMI socket all in place. Now next we need to mount the Raspberry Pi so we can then work out how long our USB cable is going to be for the controller ports. As I say, it's up to you if you want to use the original controller ports, or whether you just want to use male to female USBs. If you don't want to solder, then that's fine. Or you might want to change it up a bit and maybe have 2 USB ports and 2 controller ports. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Clear that stringy stuff off in a bit. So the Raspberry Pi, before we glue it, we need to make sure we plug the ribbon cable in for our micro SD extender. So it's plugged in. We also want to plug in the HDMI. So we know where that's going to go. I'm not going to connect the 3.5mm jack, but I mean, if you want to, then obviously you can. Just obviously be careful of the ribbon, because last thing you want to do is damage it. Just try and I think I'm going to put it there. There's a good place for it. So let's glue it in. Just put some on. Ideally before the glue decides to dry on me. Right, so that's where we're going to put it. Just let that dry a bit. Obviously hot glue is fairly soft, so if you need to take it out again, then it isn't too difficult. Right, now that's sort of resting in place. Just put some glue around the corners. Going through a lot of hot glue. I'm probably using too much, but I'd rather use too much than too little. Excellent, so as you can see, it's starting to take shape. We now have the Raspberry Pi in place, the micro SD adapter in place, HDMI in place, Ethernet in place, power supply in place. So next is going to be the controller ports. Now, when you're doing these for the controller ports, you obviously want to use the top one closest to the Ethernet port as port 1 for your controller. Then straight underneath that, port 2, port 3 and port 4. And I've even found when playing the games, if I swap the controllers around in multiplayer, the ports do represent the correct ports. I think they actually say USB 0, 1, 2, 3. So in USB 0 is controller port 1, 2, 3 and 4. So here's our controller port. I'm going to just move this out of the way just so we can sort of focus on the controller port a bit. Right, now to get into this, we have to sort of prise it open with a screwdriver. They shouldn't be too difficult to get apart. I mean, you've got a piece of solder here and here, but I find that, you know, you don't even need to undo that normally, but we'll see. Always when you're videoing, things don't go quite as planned. But if you sort of get into the corner like that and prise it up, and do the same for the other corner. What I'll do is I'll demonstrate one controller port, then I'll pause the video and solder the other one up again to save time, because I'm sure once you've seen how to do it once, you don't need to see it again. Now, there you go, it's starting to come now. Turn the soldering iron on ready. And what we'll do is we'll put these lids back on afterwards. You don't have to. I tend to put the lids back on them to make it, well, just to look better really, but again, you don't see it from the outside. Now maybe we are going to have to get the soldering iron on that. normally it's... I just wonder if we can... cut that away. See if I've got to sink a bit. Okay. That's one side. So we're using the soldering iron as a bit of a... There. Hopefully we should be able to get into this now, he says. Yes, there we go. That's one. Sorry if this is going out of focus. There we go. And that's what you're left with. So what I'm going to do is unsolder these. Red, white, green, then you miss one, and then black. So, yeah, that's fairly straightforward. As I say, I'll demonstrate this one to you. And then I'm going to pause it, get the other ones done, and then we can continue on with the video. Now, a little tip that I find always works for me, makes it easy when you're soldering, is to actually screw the controller port back onto the console, back to front, and then that way it doesn't move about and you can easily get in there and unsolder the connections. So that's what we're going to do. So we need to find a screw, which we have here. And that's fixed on. That'll save it moving about. See if I can get you in any better. So that's basically how it looks. Then what you need to do is take your male to female USB extender, and that one's going into port 1. So we need to work out how long we need it. Probably best to cut a little bit extra just in case. So we're going to cut there. Doesn't matter if you got a bit too much cable. Probably a bit too much actually, but it doesn't matter for this. And obviously strip it. Let's see with then you obviously just want to check that when you've cut the cable or stripped it back that you haven't damaged it or in any way. And as you can see, we're left with the same colourings that we had on the Xbox controller ports, bar the yellow. So green to green, red to red, white to white, and black to black. And then the yellow one can come out all together. See if we can get this in better for you so you can see. Right, okay. Now I'm trying to do this on the side so you can see it better. So what we want to do is you want to be careful you don't obviously rip the pins out. And get your soldering iron. So that's the red one off. That's the white one off. That's the green one off. Yellow. Black. So now what we need to do is strip these back. Now you need to have the flex sort of coming out slightly because otherwise it won't close. So just strip these back. Twist them together. Now normally I'd tin these, but these wires are very, very thin and you don't want to keep it on the soldering iron too long and end up melting the cable. There we are, we're all stripped back. red, white, green, black. So just going to cut these to right. Get them into order. They are now ready to be soldered. So, it's going to be quite tricky. Solder sort of flowing over that. That's the red wire soldered. Time to solder the white. Oh. Now, there's not a lot of spacing in here, so you absolutely need to make sure that there's going to be no shorts. I'm not very happy with that white wire. Let's take that off and start that again. Just trying to do this so you guys can see. That's better. So the pins are incredibly close, so it makes this a bit tricky. Oh, still not great. What I'll do, I do apologise, I'm making a complete hash of this. But it'll be all worth it in the end. So red, white, oh, and that's gone onto the wrong bloody terminal. Oh, just as well I spotted that. Let's take that off. Red, white, green. And now black. See if I can show you my horrendous soldering work. So that's how you do it. Red, white, green, then you miss the second to last pin, and then black. Fantastic. Then what you want to do is obviously make sure there's nothing too close to each other. Just do a slight push. Make sure nothing is shorting or going to come off. Now I think I might redo the let's just have a, they're all on really good. Do that white though, hopefully without knocking any of the others off. Maybe oh. Took a bit too much off that. Right, this could be fairly tricky. Actually, see, yeah, we can snip. Let's not snip it all off like I just did. It's better. Right, excellent, I can reach that okay. Right, that's better. And if you just tuck the wires gently underneath like that. I mean, you can put some hot glue as strain relief on there if you want. So I think you would do, but the glue gun needs to be on for that. And then I mean, you don't have to solder, but you can always solder this outer shielding to the outer side of the controller port if you like. So while the glue gun warms up, let's just have one more look at that and just see if it doesn't look too bad. And there you are. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to get the other controller ports all soldered up and together, and then we can move on to the next stage. Right, controller ports are all soldered up, so you should be left with something like this. If you want to make sure they work, you can always plug them into a laptop and plug a controller in and see if it's recognised. If it is, then you know that it's good and you've done all right. I've tested those and they're all okay. So now to put them in. Just secure them down with the screws. It is quite a time-consuming project, but nonetheless it's still good fun. So controller port 2 goes into the USB port at the bottom, closest to the Ethernet port. Controller port 1 goes to the top, closest to the Ethernet port. Controller 4 goes bottom right, and controller 3 goes top right. And there we are. So we now have, although they are a bit long, it doesn't really matter. So now what we need to do is get the power switch wired up, and obviously strip this back. Actually, if we cut it about there, just in case I need an end in the future. Then actually, if we just cut that, it doesn't really matter. One thing I will say for a fake, it's got thicker gauge wire than the genuine one. So I'm hoping this isn't going to be a bad power supply. And let's try not to cut through this, because that would really be bad. Excellent. Now obviously you can choose whatever switch you like. I've gone with an LED lit switch, which will give us a blue power button. That looks alright. So now we need the front of the case, wherever I've put it. Should be nearby. Here it is. So if we pop out it's in there pretty good. But there he goes. Now I think this is going to be too big to go, yeah. I bought two switches because I couldn't find the nut the right size, so I'm going to use one switch and the nut off both. So this is a 16mm switch. Actually, while so that should, it lines up in there quite nicely. So if I just find the other switch, it is on here somewhere. It'll be nice to have a proper workshop. Working on a small table. Where's that gone? Right in front of me the whole time. Then you've got a spare if you break it. I mean, the switches are only about £5. Now what we want is the nut off the back. Sorry if this isn't very easy to see. Oh, that's definitely not the way I want it. That's how I want it. So if we try and keep it straight like that. And then the end result is that. That does look like it's gone a bit off center, so that's... There we go, that's better. Now, I mean, you could put a momentary switch there if you wanted and solder it to the bottom of the Pi and have a reset switch. Now we need to obviously test the power supply and work out what the pinout is on this, because it's a completely different pinout from the last Xbox I did, even though the switch looks exactly the same. So we need to have a look. We've got LED. Why they can't just put plus minus switch on switch off? That would make more sense, but no, they haven't done it like that. We've just got LED A, B. So what we need to do is figure out what is the switch and what is the LED. See if we can work that out with a multimeter. So the switch is in the in position. Right, so that would indicate to me that these two are our switch. Push it again. We now have continuity. Now we need to work out which one is LED. It says LED at the top. Let's see if we can LED on C, which I guess is common, NC. So can't get the LED to light up, which it should do. Right, well I'm going to have to pause this video while I figure this switch out. I'll get it soldered up and then I will show you it afterwards. As I say, all switches are different, none of them have the same. I mean, I wonder what this one says. Yeah, this one's different as well. They came from the same place, but they've got different writing on them. So yes, I'll pause the video and look at this switch and then we'll continue from there. Right, that took a bit of figuring out, but we got there in the end. You see it's all soldered and wired up. And I've also wired the Molex connection. As I say, you don't have to do it this way if you don't want to, but I prefer to have things on Molex because that way I can unplug and replug. Let's just test it out, shall we? See how it all works. Ah yes, plug it in. Right. I don't know if you can see that blue. But it is on. One thing I will note is the fan in this power supply is certainly a bit noisier than the others. Let's just check the voltage at the Molex connection to make sure that's all okay. So red is 5 volts. Let's check the grounds. 5.10. Well, you can't. It might be easier if I turn it around that way for you. .10. 5.10. So we've got 5 volts, which is good. Now let's test 12 volts. 12.54 and 12.54. Now the DC to DC converter I'm using takes between 8 and 20 volts in and 5 volts out, so it doesn't matter that there's a slight fluctuation there. So let's get this front panel on. Let's just obviously switch it off. Now shut the power supply down. There you go, just drain it out. unplug these a second. And bring those over there. Let's get this put back on. As you can see, we have our controller ports and our nice new switch. We just plug these back in. That's 4. That's 3. So we need to obviously wire a Molex connection to this fan cable, and we also need to wire in this DC to DC converter. It's already got the micro USB on there. So we need to see where we're going to mount this, and I think we're going to put it there. So we need to obviously put a Molex connection on there. Let's just see what we've got here. Right, so we need to put a female end on. Sorry, a male end, rather. So if we just take this out of the equation. And we're left with that. Now these, we should be able to pop these out for the ones we don't want. So let's just have a look. Easier said than done, but they do come out. Let me just adjust this so you can see. There we go, that's one, wherever that fell. So we don't need that. So that's out. Just put a mark in that, so we know that's where I want the 12 volts. This one wants to be a pain. There we go. And it's out. Now we've got that out. We are left with that. So strip these off ready. Get that soldered in. I'm not overly happy with that. Better. Alright, then once you've done that, you should just be able to push that back through. Oh, I see. Right. Not quite through, but I think that will. Why does it not want to pull through? Let's see. This is what happens when you chew your nails. You can't get your nails in there. That should hopefully do the trick. There we go, that's got it. And then the black one we cut off, which should be here. Let's do the same too. And just crimp. Right, let's solder that up. That's now soldered up, so if we just cut the excess away. That one's bent out, so if we bend it up some more. nice and tight. And there you are. So we're going to position that there, but first we need to put a Molex on the fan. So let's do that. Although as there's not a lot of cable on this, I might just, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'm just going to attach onto this one with a bit of heat shrink, and the cable's not very long on this. So we only want, again, the same. So if we just pop the other ones out. Excellent, so we're going to splice that. I don't know if you can see it, but let's splice that onto here. Got a bit of heat tubing. And I think if we cut that in half, we can use. Oh, actually, that one's a bit too big. Yeah, so if we use that, cut it in half. And drop that on there. Oh, damn. One thing for that to rest on, really. Just do it like that. Oh, this is... Right, let's solder that. I'm amazed the battery in my phone hasn't gone flat yet. It's been doing this. Been recording for quite a few hours now. That on there. Well, that one went together a bit better. Lovely. So if we now shrink that one in. I know what I should have done, but it's too late now. I should have put a central piece of tubing over that. Right. Excellent. So we're pretty much done now. We've just got to plug things in now. And a new one of these. Well, actually, we should fix that down in a second. Let's just see. In fact, let's just clear some of this stuff out. Make it a bit better. Again, not that we're going to see it inside, but still it should look half decent, I suppose. Tuck. If we tuck those out of the way, that'll be okay. And yes, we'll just give it a test. And then yeah, you've got the idea. Then in the next video, we'll be actually installing and configuring Retropie and configuring the controllers. Although once you've installed Retropie, any controller you plug in, it will detect and it'll just ask you to press up, down, left, right, A, B, C, that sort of thing. So it's fairly self-explanatory. You know, I don't think you'll have any problems there. I mean, you may already know how to configure Retropie. You might just want to put it into a fancy case like this, although it's completely unnecessary really, but as I said, it's just fun to do. And you could quite happily just use that on its own. Nice and small. But, yeah. So in fact, if we... I want to be careful with this ribbon cable. I don't want it to get damaged in any way, shape or form. If we just tuck, I'll try and tuck it. Yeah, that's not a good idea next to the fan. How are we going to route this? I think perhaps we put a bit of tape on it. And again, it's not going to be seen, so it doesn't really matter. It's just a... I don't really fancy hot gluing it because I'm sure it would melt. Actually, that wasn't really enough, was it? Not covering the fan vents, that would sort of defeat the object. To be honest, we can sort that out in a bit. Right. And of course my glue gun hasn't got hot because I unplugged it to plug the Xbox in. So let's see if we can improve this more then. I thought the glue gun would have been up by then, but it's not. Never mind. I'm always wary with these ribbons. Of course, it's got itself in a bit of a tiz. Just tuck it out there, out the way. That'll do there. We also want to plug this in. I'm not going to cut it this time and shorten it. As long as you make sure your screw holes are clear, so when you put it back together, yes, it's looking good. It's looking good, good. Now I'm just going to find the DC to DC converter that has now just walked off on me. Ah, how did it get down there? Let's get this into position as well while we're at it. And get that plugged in. Slightly different make from the last one I had. And of course, when you can. Yes, the right way up might help. That's in, HDMI's in. Glue gun, hopefully. Look at that, just a second. So we've got this, which we're going to plug one in for the fan, and then one in for that, and then obviously because I had transparent Xbox last time, you know, I had some LEDs in here and they were on Molex as well. Yes, plug it in the right way up. I don't know what it is with some of these. This is a brand new one that hasn't been touched, and it doesn't want to plug in. Oh, and that's popped out as well. That's not very good. Now, what's going on with this? There we go, got there in the end. What a nightmare. Put some hot glue in. Stick that down. And there you are, the build is complete. Obviously we'll just plug in, make sure we've got the fan coming on and the Pi lights up. Obviously I haven't put an SD card in there yet, so that's alright, so there's no risk of damaging the SD card when we power it up. So in fact, let's have a little test, shall we? Some of the reassuring crackle. Now, the fan's on. Is the Pi on? Yep, the Pi's lit up. Obviously it's got tape over it. Yes, it is quite noisy. So there you are. Then all you've got to do is just reassemble the system, and yeah, you're done. Let's just see if I can show you a better view of this. So, I don't know if you can see the fan. You can see the fan spinning. And if you decide to go my route, then excellent. I'm sure you can do a better job of the soldering and stuff than I can. But it's not too hard. It is quite time consuming. But if you've got the passion for this sort of stuff, then yeah, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'll switch it off, and in the next video we will be loading Retropie and having a look at how to load the ROMs and everything else. I hope you enjoyed our episode. Sorry if I waffled on a bit or talked crap, but there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and hope to do more. Thank you very much.